Hi, are you thinking about moving to Seattle, Washington, or the suburbs around it? Maybe Renton, Washington? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you the pros and the cons, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad of living in Renton, Washington. Take it from a local who's lived here for part of her life. There's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things about Renton, just like any town, and I'm going to tell you about those things. We're going to get after it right now. Hi, if this is your first time to my channel and you want to know about moving to Seattle or the suburbs around it, like Renton, then subscribe to my channel and tap the bell for notifications so that you can be the first to know about the current market in Seattle, Washington. Hi, I'm Kelsey Anderson, and we get contacted all the time from people just like you looking to make their move to Seattle or the suburbs, and we love it. So whether you're looking to move now or in a little while, then contact me. All the information is in the description below, and we'll help you make that smooth move to Seattle. Now let's jump into it. As I said, today we're gonna go over the pros and the cons, but if you don't really know much about Renton, Washington, because you're coming from out of state, or maybe you live on the the eastern part of the state, or you just live in a different part of Washington and you've never been here, I want to start by talking about where in the world Renton is. So Renton is 15 miles southeast of Seattle, Washington. Bellevue and Newcastle are just north of Renton. Issaquah is east. Kent is directly south. And then the southern part of Seattle is on Renton's east side. Renton has a population of 105,000 people. And this is more than doubled since the year 2000. They've also seen a 15% increase in population just since 2020. More and more families are coming to live in this area. Schools are still being built. Construction projects are still adding condos and homes because of the growth. According to niche.com, Renton is in King County and offers residents an urban-suburban mixed feel, and most residents own their homes. In Renton, there are a lot of restaurants, coffee shops, and parks. Many families and young professionals live in Renton, and public schools in Renton are above average. Now, Niche gives some popular ratings and some lesser popular ratings to Renton. They give Renton an overall B rating, which is subjective, but I think that's a pretty fair rating. The highest ratings are in diversity, nightlife, health and fitness, and outdoor recreation, with some of the lowest ratings in cost of living and crime. This leads me to my first pro, because I actually think the cost of living is actually a pro, but you could see it as a con. I think it's a pro because if you look at the neighboring cities like Seattle, Bellevue, Issaquah, Newcastle, they're all more expensive than Renton. To live only 15 to 20 minutes away from both Bellevue and Seattle and have a better price point, to me, is a pro. The Renton median home price is $676,000 compared to these more expensive suburbs. In Seattle, the median home price is $824,000. In Issaquah, it's $1,058,000. And in Bellevue, it's sitting at $1.3 million. Now, it is more expensive than towns south, like Kent and Auburn, because those towns have to travel more to get into the city. So it makes sense. They're gonna be a little bit lower price points. Kent has a median home price of $596,000, while Auburn is sitting right at $568,000. My next pro is nearby attractions. Renton, Washington has incredible location. That's what we say in real estate, right? That is why people love to live in Renton, because it's an amazing location. It's close to a lot of amazing things. Number one, it is close to Bellevue and Seattle. They are only 15 to 20 minutes away. Renton is close to Snoqualmie and Crystal Mountain. It's only 30 to 45 minutes away. Renton is close to the ocean. It's only 2.5 hours away. Renton is close to 2 lakes, both Lake Washington and Lake Sammamish, within only 20 minutes or less. Number 5, Cedar River is right in Renton, Washington, while the Snoqualmie River, if you want to go floating the river or just enjoying the cold water, is just 20 miles down I-90. Number 6, Renton has a lot of wonderful restaurants right in town. So Melrose is a very fancy steak restaurant that's been around for years. It even uses the same original bar back in 1901. The Red House, Vince's Pizza, The Brick, so many other great restaurants are right here in Renton. And that's really great if you love going out, but you don't always have to go into Bellevue and Seattle for the fanciest restaurants. And number 7, if you do love shopping or upscale malls and dining experiences, you're only 15 to 20 minutes away from Bellevue Square in Bellevue, Washington, or South Center, south in Tukwila. So it's not that far away if you're looking for those types of things, but it's not here in Renton, Washington. The third pro of living in Renton, Washington is the attractive setting. When you compare Renton to other cities and states in the United States, you think of Renton and you think of green trees, mountains, lakes, nearby oceans, etc. Go up a short hike and you will be on a peak looking out on lakes and just a covering of evergreen trees. Even in Renton, there is sort of a lower valley region, and then there's houses up on the hill. If you are up on the hill, you are able to look out at gorgeous Lake Washington and just the sprawl of the city. So people love having that dynamic green backdrop, having mountains in the background almost any direction that you look. With all the pros, it is important to also consider the cons when you're thinking about where you might want to live. So this leads me to my first con of living in Renton, Washington, which you might know about, but it's the weather. Okay? Now, as much as people believe that Renton is the rainiest city, well, I should say Seattle's the rainiest city, it's not. It doesn't even make the top 11 list of rainiest cities in the United States. Although there is 44 inches of rain per year, which is higher than the US average of 38 inches, according to bestplaces.net. So it's a little bit rainier than average, but that's not the biggest problem with the weather. It's a little bit cloudy in Renton, just like Seattle. So Seattle is not really the rainiest, it is the cloudiest. So there's a lot of gray days. According to Seattle Times, there are 226 days where there are clouds in the sky. So that's a pretty big portion of the year, but some of those clouds come on sunny days. Some of the days are cloudy in the beginning of the day and then sunny the next half of the day. So if you get really down by clouds, this might not be the best place for you to live, but you can always get a happy light, which I know people that have done that to make sure that they feel the sun in sort of an artificial way. Or we just honestly enjoy the sunshine more when there's more days of kind of gray clouds and rain. So just something to think about. Positive about the weather, even though I'm still on the cons, is that there are no big natural disasters that are common to the Seattle area. So while in lots of parts of the country, you are facing threats of hurricanes and tornadoes and all that kind of icky, scary stuff, we don't have that here in this part of the Northwest. Now, there are earthquakes, but they don't tend to be very damaging. The last big one, I think, was back in 2001. And even that earthquake 22 years ago didn't do remarkable damage. So that's kind of one nice thing. We don't have wildfires on this part of the state, and we don't have big natural disasters. But like I said, if gray days and rain are the worst thing ever and you're used to super duper sunny weather, then this might not be the best climate for you. This brings me to my next con, which is sprawl and traffic. So there is traffic on 405, which is the main freeway through Renton. 405 is where you're gonna go north to 90 or south to I-5, either wanting to connect to Bellevue or Seattle if you wanna go south if you work in Tukwila or Auburn. So there is traffic, which isn't always great. But as with growing cities and growing, metropolitan areas, it's gonna happen. The sprawl of the city is also a part to consider because there are so many residential neighborhoods. You do need to have a car to get to most places in Renton. It's great that we have all these neighborhoods and people have bigger properties, but that does mean that if you want to go to the movie theater, if you want to go down to the water, if you want to go to a park, you're most likely going to need a car unless your neighborhood has a community park. My number 3 con of living in Renton, and others might disagree, but I don't think the downtown area of Renton is very updated. It doesn't have a lot to offer. I really feel like you kind of have to go into Bellevue or Seattle if you really want that downtown feel. Downtown Renton does have the Landing, which has your movie theater and restaurants and Target and sort of like that upscale feel of dining and coffee shops and cafes and things like that. But it's not your big shopping center and it's not that big. It's nice for a couple things. A couple restaurants are pretty nice down there, but I would say Renton could do better having a more updated, large downtown area to bring in more people from the community to one local place. Now, I will say what's nice in that downtown area is that you have Top Golf, you've got the water, you've got some restaurants on the water, you've got parks, places to have meetings and parties, things like that. So that is nice, but I still would like to see the downtown Renton area just get a little bit more updated. Now, the last piece is about schools, and I preface this, it's at the end of my con section, but it's really a pro and a con depending on how you see it. The overall grade that niche.com gives Renton schools is a B. So that's not bad overall. But the interesting thing about living in Renton is there are a few other districts that serve Renton residents. So there are 16 elementary schools in Renton, 4 middle schools, and 4 high schools, but Kent School District and Issaquah School District also feeds in to some residents. So if you are moving here, you're definitely going to want to know if your resident is a part of the Issaquah School District or the Kent School District. And you'll need to do your own research to make sure that you know where your child is going and what that means for the type of schooling they will get. There are 15,310 students in the Renton School District, and 52% are on free and reduced lunch. The students have an A+ in racial diversity because of the variety of races represented by the student body. The Hispanic population takes up 27%. The Asian population is 25%. The white population is 22%. The Black population is 15%. And the multiracial population is at 10%. And let's not forget about the Pacific Islanders coming in at 1%. The general scores from the different schools in Renton range from C all the way to A-. If you can see on this graph, it really breaks down the different regions in Renton and what the school scores are according to niche.com, which pulls its data from multiple sources and local test scores. You want to check out my other videos when I talk about the top neighborhoods in Renton, because it kind of gives you an idea of the different neighborhoods that you're going to see on this map. You will see on the north side more B ratings. So as you get to the northern side of Renton, the schools tend to be a little higher rated. If you look at the southern side, in the Cascade Fairwood area, the scores aren't typically as good. If you look in the downtown sort of city center area, it's sort of a mix between B's and C ratings. The best score is over there at Hazen High School. If you'll see that A-, that is Hazen High School. And all the high schools in Renton actually score pretty good, either A or B rating. So that is Lindbergh High School, Renton High School, and Hazen High School. You'll definitely want to know about the ratings in the local neighborhood that you might want to purchase in Renton before making your decision, because again, this is why it's a pro and a con. There's definitely a range of scores. When you look at the passing scores on standardized tests, 55% of students in Renton are proficient in reading, while 47% are proficient in math. The graduation rate is 77%. The average SAT is 1180, and the average ACT is 26. Now, one last thing I want to point out about the education in Renton is the neighboring districts. And this is why it's both a pro and a con. If you look at the neighboring districts such as Bellevue and Issaquah, which remember Bellevue is just north of Renton, Issaquah is just east, they both score an A+ rating on niche.com. Now, if we look at West going to Seattle, they score an A, and just south of us in Kent is a B-. So Bellevue only scores really better than Kent. All the other neighboring districts score a little bit higher. So something to think about. Is a B rating bad when you compare all the school districts in the country? No. It is something to consider when buying a home. You're going to want to look at those scores and do your own research for what your family is looking for and what's going to make the most sense to your kids and meet their individual needs. I hope this video was of value to you and you learned a little bit about the good and the bad, the pros and the cons about Renton, Washington, and maybe you learned something that you didn't know before. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and tap the bell for notifications so that you can be the first to know about the current market in Seattle, Washington. I'd love to see you around town. If not, I will catch you next time. See you later.